Okay, so we're back and we are ready to get rolling again. Be sure to save your file if you haven't already. And I'm going to make a few minor changes to the shape, or actually more really of the placement of these vertices. For instance, we have like some vertices that are really close together right here that probably don't need to be. Let me do an edge slide here. Pull those up. Oh, thank you. Pull those up a little bit. Okay, and the other thing I want to do is pull these a little closer together, because we just have this huge gap. Pull this down, tweak that a little bit. Kind of adjusting for roundness, because I know I'm about to be working in this area. Might as well get it all nicely straightened up. Now, if you don't already know, you can grab an edge loop and glance up here, and this will tell you how many edges you have. So we have 10 edges. And of course, we need to get that worked down to 8 by the time we get here. There are all kinds of ways we could do that. We can reconcile at the knee, we can add some more detail in the foot. I kind of want to mix things up a little bit in a way. So in the last class, I merged things in at the knee and terminated some stuff. We could do that here as well. I mean, if we really, really had to. I'm just thinking. Let's see if we can do that same thing, but in a slightly different way. I have an idea. We'll just see how it works. Okay, let's jump to the front view. And, oh, yeah, let's clean up some of these vertices here. Right. Now, I'm going to grab some vertices. Let me go ahead and turn off the smooth for just a minute. Let's grab these edges, and I'm going to extrude them down. We'll take the ones at the ankle, we'll extrude those up, and we'll just meet in the middle. So let's extrude these down to the knee, and we'll scale them down like so. Jump over to the side view. Actually, it's really close. Pull that in, maybe scale up a little bit in Y, so that kind of fits. You can see where that's going. Now let's grab edges here and go back over to the front view, and we'll extrude these up like so. Scale those out. Scale in this way. Move forward. Now I'm going to rotate these a little bit so that they meet at kind of an angle. About like so. Alright, so there's the basis for the shape we're going to create. It's not perfect, but, you know, it gets us rolling. Now, there are two faces right at the front of the knee, or two edges, actually, I should say, that I want to utilize. So these guys right here, and if I take a look in the front view, I kind of want those to be lined up with the very front, I don't want to rip anything, with the very front top of the knee, like so. And I'm going to extrude those down toward the bottom of the knee, it's right about there, like so. Now, why am I doing that? You'll see here in just a moment. First off, well, I'm going to be doing a little bit of catch-up with my shape real quick, and you'll see what I mean. Let me get these. I don't need this edge, and I don't need this edge. So, boom, boom, boom. I just want these guys. I'm actually going to extrude these down. Well, not like that. Let's hit E, pull these down about halfway, jump over to the side view. I'm going to scale these down in Z, like so. Okay. Then this little pair of faces here that I extruded down, I'm going to split these with Control R and get these merged in. So that's what I meant by saying a little bit of catch-up, because I could have extruded everything down first, but I didn't. And why? Yeah, I just didn't. Didn't think of it at the time. Okay, now I want these to go down pretty low. Let's say to about here. And in essence, what I'm about to do is create the same type of shape that I created at the toe, but I'm going to use it to create a knee. So I'm going to kind of round out these two shapes like so. Actually, that would give me entirely the... that'd be going in the wrong direction. Let me actually flip that around. I don't know why I didn't think of that till just now. So, kill these faces. Actually, you die. I need to go in the other direction. Let's grab these two edges down here, extrude these up, and scale those down, and then I'll just try to ignore the fact that my brain just sort of shut down temporarily. I'll fill these back in here in just a moment. All I'm trying to do is give a nice way to go from 8 edges to 10, and now we have 8, 9, 10. The problem is I made my extrude from above, and that would have ended up with 12 edges, and it was just thinking in the wrong direction, or... well, whatever I was doing, I need to do this instead. So, grab these two, hit F, grab these two, hit F. And now, here comes the cool part. We can just start off by grabbing vertices, and we can clean these up a little bit, just to kind of make sure things are looking like they're mostly lining up. But then, as soon as we're pretty sure we got a good start, just grab edges that are straight down, and you can see we've got a normal issue here, because we're getting that weird darkening on the surface. Don't stress that. Real easy to fix. And see, two faces here, two faces here, boom. So, to fix the normal thing, just hit A to select everything, and then just hit Control N, and that's going to point all the normals in the proper direction. Alright, so let's go ahead and give everybody a quick check to see who's caught up to this. Okay, so we've got to start, but obviously there's a little way to go here to get this kind of straightened up and turned into a leg. So let's go over to the front view, and we'll start from the front. And I'm just going to split once in the middle for starters, and immediately go to vertices. Let me go ahead and clean up these verts, make sure they form kind of a nice sort of loop. Then I'll scale them up, move them around a little bit. Take a look from the side view, and looks like these can be scaled outward a little, slid back a little bit. Maybe something about like so. Also, a good idea to double check your smooth mesh and just see how things are flowing. And we've got some more detail to add, but it's never too early to just double check and make sure you haven't done anything too terribly detrimental. Looking okay so far. Now, here at the knee, before we go too much further down, I kind of want this to have sort of an upward sweep at these frontmost vertices, and then come down at the sides of the knee, and then back up. It's a shape that I find does a nice flow for topology, both for texturing and helping you see where the knee is, and for animation. I found that just spreading those out so that the vertices have plenty of room to move when you scrunch them together, it just works nicely. So let's double check that positioning here, and we'll just kind of build a knee shape. I'm not really worried about what the vertices are doing right along the center of the knee. We're going to get there. Make sure that is at the front of the knee. Sometimes when you're looking through, it can be a little difficult to tell. Alright, and we'll scale these in a little bit. Do some moving. Do a little bit of back and forth on these vertices, kind of clean up those lines that are coming down off of the hip. You can pull these out and add a little more detail. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I have to sneeze. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, and it went away. Oh, I hate that. Oh, that's the worst feeling ever. Actually, let's leave those kind of high, because I realize that's actually adding a nice sort of crease slash change in direction for her bottom, so I won't pull these down too far. Alright, so there's another edge, and we'll scale this down a bit. Move it a little. Let's go ahead and take a look from the other side, and that it needs to be kind of cleaned up. Okay, so I think this is a good time to let everybody kind of catch up, so we'll do that. I had a question. So is there a minimum amount of edges you like to have around a joint for animation? I guess a true minimum would be like 3. But that's really very, very few. And I feel like you're going to have to be really careful with joint placement and exactly how you get everything lined up to make 3 really sing for you. But even that kind of depends on how much geometry you have running in the other direction, what the joint's going to be doing, that sort of thing. All right, well, let's go ahead and continue. So, I'm going to clean up the knee. Actually, I'm going to clean up everything here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get the calf done, because that's kind of a fast thing. So, as before, just hit Control R, add in an edge loop. Now, for calves, I like to sort of rotate backwards just a little bit, just because for me it feels like there's a little more flesh higher up on the leg on a lot of calves, and it's kind of what I have in mind here. It's really sort of a reflection of what we did with the geometry here of the arm, so we're just going to do it again. Just a topological decision that I kind of like. So let's scale these out like so. Make sure we can see through our shape real quick. There we go. Scale out in Y, that looks pretty good. We'll rotate back a little bit farther, scale out, G to move. That's pretty good. Now let's double check the front view, which probably looks terrible, and it does. So we'll just scale out this way, and rotate a little bit. We've got to be careful with that though, because that scaling out and rotating is actually kind of twisting the geometry. It's causing the edges that flow from top to bottom to have a little bit of a twist to them, so we don't want to do that too much. Okay, that's looking pretty nice for a start. Hit Control R, and we'll now add in the shape for the lower part of the calf. And let me double check here on the smooth. No, we were doing okay. I don't need to pull that back out. And let's put that away for just a minute. Start with an edge up here at the very top. Again, we'll scale out a little ways like so. Clean up the verts a little bit. And again, I kind of like to have a U shape that sort of wraps around the joint. You can also take the vertices here at the front of the leg, and those can come closer to the shin bone, and it'll help you get a little more of that actual shape of the shin, where it's wider at the back as you get to the calf muscle. It's usually a very, very handy trick to employ. But let's check the side view here, and obviously we've got a little bit of adjustment to do. See how that looks smooth? I mean, it's coming along, but it feels like this edge could actually be up a little higher, and that would help. So let's lift that up, but then we need to immediately check the front view. And we have some width we need here, so I'm just going to scale this out quite a ways, and then just start playing with verts. Let's keep these really tight. I'll get that width from the vertices at the back of the leg, and that'll look much more natural. Pull these verts at the bottom of the knee out a little ways. Again, add our width from the back of the leg, not the front. Straighten up these edges here. Now, another curvature that I like and I think helps a lot in certain topological areas is to take this edge here that goes around the lower portion of the calf and give it a little bit of a slant so that it's higher at the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and grab this one vertex, and I'll hit O to turn on proportional editing and hit G and just pull that up. And my radius worked out really well for that, actually. Grab this one and pull this one down. Alright, go ahead and switch this back on and pull this back a little bit. Now, it seems to me that I could actually use another edge here to kind of aid in forming this definition. So let's go ahead and do that and then get that position. So it's just helping with some of that curvature there. It also means I can kind of pull some of this stuff in a little. Also perhaps grab these vertices and pull them down a little bit to get that shape of the calf a little more accurate. So we're getting that nice kind of bulge as we go down. And just clean up some of the flow around those edges a little bit. And now I'm going to clean up the knee. Actually, before I get too far into that, in fact, let me back up a little bit with an undo. So there's the calf essentially wrapped up. Let's go ahead and do a ready check for people to catch up to this point. Alright, so now time to tackle the knee. And sorry I kind of got an early start on that. Let me begin by going over to the side view. And yeah, we can clean up the back of the knee already. We can see that. We got some thickness issues here that we can kind of work with. Of course, double check your smooth. Yeah, we can pull back the back of the thigh. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. Pull that back a little bit. Yeah. Alright. Sorry, just happened to see that there. Okay. So, now the knee and all this area is our next goal. So we'll slide this back, start taking these guys and sliding them back so that we're lining up a little more closely. We are going to be adding a little more geometry, so I'm going to go a little deeper into the shape than I really ought to, maybe. This can be pulled down a little farther, pull this over. Okay, and Control R, add this edge here in the middle of the knee. Oh, we also have some cleanups to do here, but let me undo that and get that thickness for the knee down and locked, because that's, yeah, that needs adjustment. So we'll widen it back here as well. Pull this up, pull this forward, use these to pull that back. Basically, if we take a look at the side view and we notice that we need to bring a bit of the knee forward, it's a good idea to make sure the vertices at the back of the knee are flattening the back of the knee, because it tends to be a little more flat. There we go. Okay, now I think, finally, we can drop this other edge in here and go ahead and start working with it. So in the front, I'm going to create sort of a little circle, if you will, out of the vertices, or something vaguely circular shaped. I mean, if you wanted to run a two-sphere operation on that, I wouldn't necessarily blame you, even though I didn't do it. Also, these vertices right above the kneecap, let's see if we can just kind of pinch those in so we can see those kind of flare out when we get around the knee. Maybe not that much, just something a little subtle. And just in case we need a little more skin motion as we approach the knee, I'm going to add one more edge here. Actually, you know, the way I'm going to do that, let me jump over to edges here. I'm going to bevel this edge. Yeah, I think I like that idea better. And just pull down the percentage a little bit. Just in case I need a little more flow as we get to this point. Jump back over to vertices. Okay. All right. And I think really with that we've got things pretty well attached and set to go. So there is the leg for our character. Pretty nicely assembled, actually. Let's go ahead and hit Tab, take a look at the whole model. I'll press N and T and get rid of everything else. Actually hit Control Up and just look at that. I'll press N, go under Display, and turn on only Render. And that helps a bit. So now would be a really good time to kind of go back over your legs, see if there's anything that you'd like to tweak or make further adjustments to. Or waggle around. But outside of that, we are essentially done here. Now, of course, your homework for this week is going to be to create this yourself. You're going to be creating these feet. Go ahead and get them attached. If you've got a work in progress thread, just go ahead and add to it. You don't need to create a new one. And if there are no further questions, then really that's going to wrap up tonight's lesson. Now, what I'm going to do, instead of just closing things off, is I figure I've got another 10, 15 minutes that I can just kind of hang around. I can answer questions if anybody has any, and I can perform some tweaks to the model that are just kind of arbitrary at the moment. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And if in the meantime, while you're working, if anybody has anything they want to ask, please feel free and do that. Alright, well, I mean, I can't do too much to the chest and to the back. This stuff is actually looking pretty nice as we move down to the legs. I can't really complain much here. We could kind of flatten out a little bit of the back of the leg, but I think that's just going a little bit far with this particular model. Alright, folks. Well, no other... Oh, wait, hang on. If I end up with a triangle, is it the end of the world? Should I take time to get it back to a quad? You know, it's a very philosophical question, and I think it depends on where you have the triangle. If it's something where a lot of skin is going to be deforming, especially things like faces, like the face of a character, then you may want to reconsider it. But if you find yourself doing really weird things just to get rid of a triangle, then you may be overthinking it. I think in the end it's really going to boil down to you deciding, do you absolutely need to have that triangle there? Because if you need it, then take it. There's no reason not to have a triangle every so often. Now, the fewer triangles you have, generally that's better. Making sure that triangles aren't in high animation areas, that is also generally a good idea, because they can cause dimpling and other strange side effects. They don't always. And on flat surfaces, they really don't matter. Or on a surface that's not going to bend and flex too much. Like, the middle of a leg, the middle of the knee, those will twist a little, depending on the type of animation you're creating, but they won't move a whole lot. Like if you had a triangle somewhere here on the heel of the shoe, I mean, this is, for all intents and purposes, going to be a rigid surface. So whatever that does to the geometry is really not going to affect us too much. So we should be just fine. So I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. I think as you proceed with your modeling career, you'll find that you don't have to have quite so many triangles. And then every now and then you'll just look at one and be like, well, that's just got to be there. And I think you'll find it's okay. But I still stand by a point that I tried to make very early on in the class. I think I did, or I might have forgotten. It happens. I don't believe that you'll have a really super solid understanding of certain modeling decisions until you've taken a model all the way through the texturing process, then all the way through the rigging process, and then all the way through the animation process. Because once you do that, you'll start seeing where certain decisions that you make in the model change the process for texturing and change the way you're looking at your textures. And then after that, you'll see that when you're rigging and getting everything skinned up, you might see where, this is kind of difficult to get the skin to deform just right because of certain decisions that I made. And you may notice those again when you start actually animating. So no, certainly not the end of the world. And if you can easily take time for it to go back and form a quad, you might want to consider it if you feel like you really need it to bring the a certain group of edges together. Then there you go. There's your answer. But really, outside of that, I think I'm kind of free on tweaks for the time being. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. Thank you all very, very much for attending and hanging out. And I will catch you all next week. In the meantime, good luck on your homework and getting these attached. And have a good night.